Thanks a lot, Comcast. Hi, everybody. We're back for the 5th fraggin' time in a row. Bet your ass we're not sponsored, by the way. Is anyone even here? Your caps lock is on, by the way. Thanks a lot, Comcast. Hi, everybody. We're back for the... We're alive. I literally forgot what I was even saying.
Werewolves.
Yes, we were talking about werewolves because we've passed September 1st, which means we're officially in the Halloween season.
Everything?
You know, it's funny, actually. I almost considered calling you, Sean. What are you doing? What are you doing? Choopy? Choopy? Hi, Dakota. We were talking about pumpkin spice. Yes. Pumpkin spice. I see you there.
That's creepy.
What is creepy?
That's moving.
Yes, her little pendant moves. It's not part of her.
So, sorry everybody, behind the scenes we had some technical difficulties. This is the 5th time we've tried this. Our internet died. Today we're talking about werewolves. And to our host, thank you for joining us.
There's a reason the camera's pointed at me. I hope you know that. Anyway, as I was saying, yes, pumpkin spice is actually not a single spice. It's a blend of them, and almost all the ingredients are actually used quite frequently, supposedly, in protective magic. So if somebody says they don't like... says they don't like pumpkin spice, they're probably a demon, and you shouldn't talk to them. Even if they're a normal person, you just don't need that negativity in your life. Big werewolf. Apparently. I love you know the best pumpkin spice, honestly? Hi, Connie. Welcome back. We're going to talk about werewolves, I promise, in a minute. But real quick, we're in the season. Personally, I love pumpkin spice eggnog. Pumpkin spice, you can keep all your coffees. I don't like coffee personally. I don't like coffee. I don't like bitter stuff. It's why I ironically don't like dark chocolate. Yet I am the prince of darkness, despite Comcast's best efforts. What if it's all connected? Anyway, though. Werewolves. What in the bloody bleepity bleep are they? Well, okay. Before we can even get into that, is everyone behaving themselves? The bishop is snickering. The bishop usually snickers when somebody is doing something or saying something they shouldn't. Comcast is run by werewolves. Well, yeah, Connie, like we were saying, Halloween is a lifestyle, not just a day. Werewolf who owns a pharmaceutical... Okay. I mean, I guess if silver's the only thing that can kill you, you can test all your medicine on yourself, right? Is it unethical to test experimental medicine on an immortal creature? I guess. I don't know. I guess it's the principle, right? Anyway, so what the hell is a werewolf exactly? Because, oh boy, howdy. It's funny. Everyone's making jokes about, they're trying to silence us. They're trying to keep us quiet. They don't want us to talk about this. Hey! Mr. Bishop is back. Wonderful to see you again, Mr. Bishop. I feel like I've just run into him like 5 times today. Anyway, though. So, let's specify something first for here. To understand werewolves and their history and their place in history, we have to discuss something slightly... Well, I don't think they're different at all, but some people might argue they're different. But we're going to just talk about it because we can't get from one to the other. Throughout human history, in artwork, stories, even historical documentation, which we'll get to, there have been many, many accounts of what can only be described as canine humanoids. And they have a few different names, obviously. I mean, different cultures are going to call them different things. But we're going to get started here, actually. And once again, my notes are so huge that I have to basically close out the chat. So I'm trusting all of you to behave yourselves. Trusting the internet to behave itself, for crying out loud. What the hell? Like we didn't just freaking pay them. And yes, I have like 3 different drinks in front of me. That's how stressful this whole mess has been. So, the first thing we can really find of these canine humanoids, and I almost was tempted to call Sean on this because this seems like right up his alley, actually. It required me to learn a whole new word just to do this research. The oldest account that I could find was from a time frame known as, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to get it right the first try, Proto-Indo-European era. The Proto-Indo-European era, which is a really fancy way, from what I can tell, to say Rome before Rome, or Greece. We're talking like long before Romulus was even born. Which I'm kind of curious, so I'm going to bring the chat. Sean. 5 stars, you said it right. You can call it pie. Some people call it pie. Proto-Indo. Yeah, P-I-E. I prefer cake, personally. Susan, I will never behave. Anyway, though, I'm going to get back to my notes here. So, basically, before there was Rome, there was this weird group. Now, I want to warn that I've never heard this name that they had spoken aloud, so I'm not sure if I'm even closely pronouncing it correctly. I'm sure Sean, our resident Lord of Chaos and anthropologist expert, can help me out here. I really was tempted to have him call in and talk to him tonight. But basically, it's funny because there's 2 world views of these people. Some say that they were a cult, and others say that they were more like a fraternity, like a brotherhood. But they were roughly referred to as the Koryos. K''O''R''Y''O''S. Koryos. I think that's how you would pronounce it. Now, these were little groups of people, and they were always boys, ranging from age 12 to 19. And the idea was, when you were about 12 years old, you would leave your village or settlement or whatever the hell you lived in and go live with the Koryos. The Koryos. I think it's pronounced Koryo. Koryo. The Koryo, who were a secretive little society. And like I said, they ranged from age 12 to 19. When you hit 20, you had to leave and go back to the village. But they apparently worshipped dogs. And we found artwork of dog humanoids, and apparently they would fashion masks and things like that. Now, they lived kind of by being jerks. They kind of were fraternity bros, because they would basically steal whatever they needed from their village, their host society, as they called it. But they were tolerated because they also were kind of the first line of defense for a village. And I'm almost afraid to open the chat because, yeah, we all know, we're all thinking it. We found the world's first furries, which I personally thought was absolutely hilarious. Could you imagine being some, like, Viking marauder? It's like freaking, I don't know, it's like 1000 BC or something. You're sneaking through the woods with a spear and a bunch of your buddies. You're going to attack this village. It's just before dawn. And faintly in the trees you hear a woo. And you just realize you're about to get the kicked out of you by a bunch of weirdo kids. And it's funny because, like, they had all kinds of ornate, detailed ceremonies. It's kind of funny. The bishop, when I was talking to him about this before the show, he said they sound almost like the Boy Scouts. You know, they were this tight-knit youths who... What in Sam hell? Did Choopy just explode off screen? What the hell was that? You know,
It was Romane.
Ramane. Well, Ramanama Ding Dong. Anyway, go play with those goats over there. You won't cause any trouble, I think. Anyway, they were tolerated and allowed to basically live outside the village. In return, they would protect it. And they had very strange rituals that they kept very secretive. They didn't like outsiders meddling with them. And like I said, there's two variations to them. Excuse me. There's two variations to them. The bishop is just dying over there. I hope you guys can hear him snickering. I don't know. Anyway, there's two versions. Some people say they were a cult. And they would practice these barbaric rituals of not self-mutilation, but of just violence. They would beat each other. And other stories say no, they were a brotherhood. They were like a fraternity. And even when you were 20 years old and you went back to the village, you were still always kind of, you know what I mean? You know, once you're a scout, you're always a scout, kind of, you know. Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine, you know. That kind of mentality. But what we know about them, for sure, was that they were very secretive. They didn't like outsiders. They would fashion animal masks, specifically canines, and they would actually paint these crude human dog things. And if you're going off this is the oldest you can find of the canine humanoid. Now, as I understand it, after Romulus founded Rome and started expanding, he didn't like these things. From what I understand, they kind of were not accepted in Roman culture, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure Sean could probably give me way more detailed, but from what I was understanding, they kind of just stopped being a thing when Rome started to rise to power. And there was one voice on the internet was saying that he didn't like them, actually, because he didn't like the idea of people being loyal to something other than him. You know what I mean? Like, you're loyal to the Corios. You know, you're not loyal to Rome, whatever the hell Rome is. By the way, who decided Rome was a good name? I'm sorry. It's like, Rome is an action, not a place. I'm kind of curious to see what Sean has to say, because I know he has something to say here. Tara, hold that question. We'll get to him later. The Celts and British. Only slightly familiar with pie. Oh, you're not helpful at all then, are you, Sean? Personally, I prefer cake. Not Romulus. Who was it?
Romulus and Remus.
Which one was it that started Rome? Wasn't it Romulus?
Romulus.
Peter Pan's Lost Boys. Tara, do not mention that horrible book in this okay, this is a happy show. In spite of Comcast's best efforts, okay? Do not mention Lord of the Flies. Okay, my blood pressure cannot take it. You do not understand how much I despise that book. When we were talking about the evil forces mentioned in the Bible, we almost talked about Beelzebub, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I was afraid of literally dying on camera. I hate that damn book so much. Remus. Remus. Yeah, didn't Romulus murder Remus? I want to say they were making a border, and Romulus wanted to dig a trench, and Remus was like, "That's a dumb idea." So Romulus stabbed Remulus and just kept digging a ditch to be the border of his territory? Something like that? Anyway, but back to my point. This was probably the oldest account we have. Oh, Tara agrees with me. It is a terrible book. Anyway, we're just all over the damn place. See what happens? I'm sober, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Could you imagine? But anyhow, this was the first really, as far as I could find, the oldest documentation of canine humanoids. Now, the next thing that stumbles down the line is actually pretty late, past the Roman Empire. We're into the Holy Roman Empire when this second thing comes around. And this is another name that I'm going to try really, really hard to say correctly. And then this one I've heard people say it, but it's just such a clunky, weird word. But the next time that these canine humanoid images and things really step up is around 400 BC. Yeah, Romulus and Remus, they were brothers. Anyway, though. You know, kind of thing, but didn't they get raised by wolves?
Yeah, they were.
That was Romulus and Remus.
The legend is, they were raised by a she-wolf, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. There's like a statue of them, like sucking on the wolf's tits. And the wolf just looks so annoyed. I love that statue because it's so funny. The wolf looks so like not wanting to be there. They did not do a good job on the wolf's face in that statue.
I mean, canines will take care of other species' babies.
Yeah. I mean, it's not implausible, but I just love that statue because it's like super detailed babies reaching up and sucking on this dog's teats. And then the dog's face just looks like freaking One Punch Man when you tell him you're going to destroy him. Okay.
Wolf boobs.
Huh. Neanderthal. I did not hear about that one. A Neanderthal artwork of a lion person. That's weird. After Alexander, I've never seen the statue of Alexander the Great's baby. What? Anyway, we're getting way off topic. Anyway, 400 AD. No, this was BC. There it is. There's the statue. How's that for a Mother's Day gift? But yeah, that's Romulus and Remus, who were raised by wolves, supposedly. The wolf's expression just always makes me snicker. I'm sorry. Yes, I am juvenile. Anyway, though. Okay, I'm going to try real hard to pronounce this correctly. Because this is probably where the bulk of us talking about the show tonight is going to actually end up. Because there's a lot to talk about. Baby statues in general. They have soulless faces. We found another weakness to the Lord of Chaos. Baby pictures. If he gets on, we need to make a baby picture meme of... Whoa! What the... We need to make a baby picture and use it for an aliens meme. Ancient aliens. But like just a baby. Gaga. Ancient aliens. Anyway, though. Okay, I promise we're going to actually move on here. And I'm going to close out the chat here so I can see this again. All right. So, this is a creature, and it's funny because when I was looking up stuff about canine humanoids and werewolves and so on, there is so much information about this next creature that I'm honestly surprised I haven't heard so much about it, because, I mean, remember how we were saying how the Jersey Devil is so credible because Napoleon's brother saw it and said he shot at it? Well, hold on to your hats, kiddies, because this next one blows that out of the water. This is a creature that is known as, here we go, cynocephaly. A cynocephaly, or a cyno for short, as some people call them. is a human who has a canine head. Now, these creatures appear all through medieval artwork and stories. And there's actually a lot of very credible... Oh, please tell me we haven't lost something.
We've not.
Okay, good.
I'm just doing my normal checks.
I wish you would understand how much your normal checks look like blind panic. Anyway, lots of very credible people claim that they encountered these creatures, and they crop up a lot in the Mediterranean Sea on small islands and in India. But there's stories of them all across the continent, with Europe, China, so on. China has stories about them too, but they're much more vague. And it's more, oh yeah, there was a dog person. As opposed to the Europeans. Europeans literally wrote books about these creatures. There were even, I'm not joking, saintly scholars who debated and argued with each other. Like, full on, in a debate hall, challenging each other over these creatures and, their existence and so on. But the first real written documentation that we have of these creatures, of what they call the cynocephali, or cynos, is around 400 BC. BC. It wouldn't be a Christian. He was a physician named Titus. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Titus or Titus? I think it might be Titus. He was a physician, and he claimed that he actually lived with a tribe of these cynos for like a year or two, a couple years, I want to say. And he wrote this whole big book just about them. And it's very interesting, because he spared no details. He told you everything. He had crude anatomy artwork, drawings of them compared to humans. He said he learned to communicate with them. He said it was very difficult because they can't speak. They can't form human words. Much like our modern canines don't have vocal cords. They can only make barking sounds. Unless it's a pug or a French bulldog or a husky, in which case they can actually pretty much accidentally summon a demon last I checked. Because boy howdy, they don't shut the hell up. But anyway, they communicate through barking, but they were no less intelligent. According to Titus, they had a whole civilization up in the mountains of India that he lived with them. And they would farm, they kept livestock, specifically sheep. But they preferred to go hunt. And their primary method was javelins or bow and arrows. So these are completely human creatures. They are fully functioning as people. They can use tools, they make weapons. He said that they can wear clothes, but they didn't. They chose not to because that was a human custom, not their custom. But when they had to deal with humans, they would put clothing on. But they were completely reasonable, intelligent creatures. They were not vicious monsters. Unless you pissed them off. Titus warned that they were the most cruel creature you could ever imagine if you actually angered them. And he did, accidentally. So I mentioned that they keep sheep. They do not eat the sheep. They milk the sheep. And early on into his staying with them, he thought that the sheep milk was just to drink. So he drank some of it. No. You don't drink the sheep milk when you're in a Sinnoh civilization. They use the sheep's milk for some kind of ritualistic holy rite thing that they would do amongst their people. And so they got really mad at him. And he had to do a lot of smooth talking to convince them to not kill him. Because they didn't consider it cannibalism to eat a human. So he had to really walk on eggshells and be careful. He also mentioned that they don't cook their food. What they do is they kill things by hunting in the morning or even before dawn, and then they would butcher the meat and leave it out on like a rock or something for the sun to basically cook. Which kind of makes sense, actually, now that I think about it. I mean, they say the greatest disinfectant is sunlight, right? I mean, personally, me, I prefer a nice, I prefer myself a good pan sear back at the house. I don't know about you, but I get the logic there. I mean, yeah. But he warned that they are not above eating humans, and they will if you tick them off. But they're completely reasonable life forms. And what's funny is this is kind of the trend we see going forward. All the way into AD. In fact, there was a huge resurgence in their relevance in the 900s. Real quick side note. We were mentioning werewolf tits earlier. According to Titus, or Titus, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I think it's Titus. I think you pronounce it Titus. He claimed that it is impossible to tell a male cyno from a female without looking between their legs. They have genitalia like a human does. Males have what, and females have a that. But they don't have breasts unless the female is pregnant. When she gets pregnant, she suddenly develops breasts. But beyond that, you can't tell them apart. And apparently in their society, they didn't have gender roles or anything like that. The males and females did everything together. And even though that they were, again, fully capable of using tools and stuff like that, they didn't build houses. And according to Titus, it was because they felt that it was just too much of a hassle. There's a perfectly good cave over there you can go and live inside, or underneath a tree. Building a house is just a bunch of work. Although he also mentioned that they complained about beds. They didn't like bedding. They said it was too soft. They liked the firm earth. They liked to sleep on the ground. You know what? I'm not going to question it, because the fact these creatures were around 7 feet tall and they lived to be about 200 years old, so I'm not going to tick one off. And they were incredibly strong, very athletic and powerful. Anyway, though, but in the 900s, there was a huge resurgence of these things. There are dozens of manuscripts, documents, artwork that depict these creatures they were there. It was like, there's some dog people over there. They just live here. Yeah, no, we know them. That one's Arf and that's Ruby. Ruby-dooby-doo. That was totally for my mother. She's a huge Scooby-Doo fan. She loves that damn cartoon. I like it too, but she's a huge fan. And they just lived alongside humanity. It was really not a problem. But again, they resurged in the 900s. And there are several very interesting stories about them. One supposedly actually became a saint. Don't look at me like that. I'm not lying. It's true. There is a Cyno saint. We have something going on.
You mentioned it.
What's... They sound kind of cute. Oh, yes, Sean. Yep, Sean got it right, actually. Saint Christopher, the patron saint of travelers. He's an interesting one, and also kind of sad. But we'll get to him in a second, because, like I said, they're all over the place. Even up in the northern regions, the Viking people, as we call them today, they had their own version of these creatures, and they even claimed that a human could become one. So that's kind of getting us towards werewolves. They were called Barbazers, which is where we get the term berserker from. In the Vikings, a Barbazer or berserker was actually a holy warrior. They had to undergo these very intense, painful, holy rituals to prove themselves to the gods. And if they were worthy, the gods would send an animal to them that they would have to defeat in combat, one-on-one combat. And the result of this fight would kind of fuse the soul of the animal and the soul of the warrior and they would become kind of a hybrid. They become both. And they were considered the greatest of the holiest warriors. They were literally more than a man. Meanwhile, way over in Western, I know my directions, Western Europe, we have a creature that Tara was mentioning. In the Shetland Islands, they had a creature called the wolver. The wolver is probably the cutest monster I've ever heard described ever. Roughly standing 4 to 5 feet tall, they are a humanoid with a dog head. Although, interestingly, the Mediterranean and Indian Sinnohs are always described as being human. They don't have furry bodies. They just have a dog head. Not the wolver. The wolver is covered in fur and stands about the size of a child, 4 or 5 feet tall, also with a bushy tail. Interestingly enough, the other Sinnoh varieties do not have tails. They are not depicted or mentioned as having tails. Which honestly seems like a raw deal. Like, come on, you have to be a dog person, you don't get a tail?
I know, right?
That doesn't sound fun at all! What the hell? Tails are cool. But anyway, the wolver is funny because he's sometimes called a were-dog. Because again, they're so short compared to, a werewolf. Because if you don't realize it, wolves are bigger than you think. For the record, wolves, hyenas, jackals, they're all much bigger than you think. Think how big a wolf is, and you're wrong. They are bigger than that. They are huge animals. Sean, if you want to wrestle a bear one-on-one to become a superhuman, good luck, kid. I'm in the will, right? That's the important part, man. I just saying.
Everybody else pick on poor bears.
Having tails would be cool. But anyway, the wolver was odd. They were apparently very shy, and they would often hide in reeds or in bushes. I even read somewhere that some people claim the whole expression being wide-eyed and bushy-tailed comes from them, because they would hide in bushes from people, but they might forget that their tail, so their tail would just be sticking out of a bush, waiting for humans to walk by or whatever. But despite being very skittish and shy of humans, they apparently are benevolent creatures. They were. There are stories about them actually jumping into rivers and so on to save drowning children, or helping guide people through the woodlands. Their most famous thing, though, was that they kind of would meddle, if you will, in village politics. If they felt bad for a household, like the family was struggling, financially or something, they would go and bring fish, and they would leave fish on the window seals of houses that they felt bad for. And if they thought that you were greedy or selfish, or you were a corrupt kind of politician, they would play pranks on you to kind of warn you, hey, you're being a jerk, don't be a jerk, nobody likes a jerk. Especially not a 4-foot dog, man. All I get to think, like, they say they're only like 4 or 5 feet tall, but I think about it now, and I realize the most scary dogs are all the goddamn tiny ones. Could you imagine a humanoid that can use tools and can function and smart enough to hide from humans, but with the mentality of a chihuahua? I'm not going to mess with that. I don't want to touch that. That would probably hurt me. Or at least try to, and I don't want that either. There you go. We're creating new cryptids here. Were chihuahuas. The were chihuahua. I am unappreciating my genius. Oh, thank you, Sean. Sean says that if he dies in his ritual to become a barbizer, I'll inherit his college debts. No. No. But anyway, the wolver was a beneficial creature. They were just very shy and scared of people. So you'd have to kind of, coax them out. And they have one weakness. They love fishing. They love fishing. So what you do if you want to get a wolver to like you is you go out more or less into the wilderness and you fish. Just fish and wait. They'll come and find you, apparently, over in the Shetland Islands. Even though the story spread all across Western Europe, Ireland, Scotland, parts of the UK mention them. But the oldest indicators are that they originated on the Shetland. I think it's pronounced Shetland, right? Shetland Isle?
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I hope it's not pronounced the other way it looks, because that would be bad. But no, it's a true story. You can earn their friendship, not by giving them money, not by giving them tools or things. You know what you give them? They love fishing stories. Tell them about your... No, they love to talk about... They love fishing. Anything to do with fishing. They love to fish. They love talking about fish. They love it. So you can befriend them by using that as an icebreaker. There are some stories about... there was one story I read about this old man who, he found a broken rod that had been discarded, or he thought it had been discarded, but it was actually the fishing rod of a wolver. And so he took it and he fixed it and he put it back where he found it. And from then on, the wolver would always protect and look after his family because, fixed your fishing rod. Yeah, that's probably the strangest life debt story I've ever read. It's always like, you saved my life, you saved my life. And then there's just this little wolver, my rod. Doesn't quite sound like Han and Chewie, does it? But no, that's adorable. I think it's funny, and it's adorable, and it's very strange because if we go back to the more central Europe, to the Mediterranean region, Sinnohs are not cute anymore. They are about 7 feet tall, they're described. And it's funny because I guess in the time between 400 BC and 900 AD, they learned to be kind of untrusting of humans. There's two kinds of Sinnohs. There's the Sinnohs who just live with humans, and then they're the ones who lived on islands, and they didn't want nothing to do with you. They didn't like your stupid face. Okay? But what's funny is, perhaps one of the most well-known stories, there's two big known European stories with the Sinnohs. One is, of course, St. Christopher, which we'll get to in a little bit. But the other one is this story that there were these crusaders. And they were sailing in the Mediterranean Sea, going to war, obviously, when they got knocked off course by some turbulent weather, and they crashed onto an island. Now, for the record, there's no documentation what this island is. They didn't name it. They just crashed onto an island out in the middle of the Mediterranean. Some versions of the story claim that they actually crashed into the top of Africa, and may have been near Egypt. But as the story was told, and I've always seen it, they said they crashed onto an island, and they were actually greeted by a tribe of Sinnohs, who they were a bit strange. And I'm saying that for dog people. They were strange for dog people. Are you possessed over there? You're contorting and twisting around. What the hell is wrong with you?
I was trying to pop my neck.
Well, stop it. It's distracting. Anyway.
You look here. You look right here.
Anyway. This tribe of Sinnohs, I guess, were a little bit different than most. Because they greeted the Crusaders, and they... How do I put this politely? How do I say this without angering YouTube? They were very excited to see the Crusaders, if you know what I mean, and I think you do.
Did they get a bone? Here, have a bone.
this is why the camera stays pointed at me. Yes, they were literally that. Yeah, thank you, Bishop. The sad thing is the Bishop's the one sitting here making bone jokes. Anyway, yes, they were literally erect. Or Jonesin, if you know what I mean, and I think you do, at the prospect of these crusaders because they wanted to fight. They loved to fight. They were so excited to see other creatures come to their island because they wanted to go to battle. And the crusaders are like, "Whoa, hey, don't point that at me, okay? Hold on a minute here. Let's talk about this. We're not looking to fight dog people. We're trying to get over around the Italian peninsula to get to the Middle East to fight heretics. You know, fight in the name of God and all that." And that's the part that confused the Sinnohs. You fight for things? We thought you just fought for fun of it. We just like fighting. What do you mean fight for something? And the Crusaders were like, well, no, you don't just fight for the fun of it. You fight in the name of, decency, in the name of God, in the name of, order and law and good things. And the Sinnohs were like, but it's still fun, right? And so these Crusaders, I'm not joking, I'm not making this up, they actually converted these Sinnohs to become Christians. A lot of them actually got baptized. And they were like, so now we go and fight for this Christ thing. Cool, fine, whatever. Let's fight somebody. Who are we fighting? Where are we fighting? And they helped the Crusaders fix their boats. And they sailed back around the Italian peninsula and up into the Middle East. And they went to war with the I don't think, were they the Ottoman at that time? Around 900 AD, would that be Ottoman, or would that still be the Turks?
That would be kind of early Ottoman, I think.
Early Ottoman? Ottoman are kind of a weak spot for me. I don't know too much about them.
900 AD, yeah, that'd be like very, very
early. In the 900s? Yeah, they'd be Ottoman then, wouldn't they? Sean, you might know this. That 900 AD. In the 900s, that'd be the Ottoman Empire over in the Middle East.
Ottoman Empire fell.
Yeah, that was like just before World War II, wasn't it? Or after?
They fell because of World War I and they broke up after the war.
Yeah. But yeah, were they the Ottoman in 900? The Bishop is trying to find this.
I hate Wikipedia so much.
So do I.
Rise 1299, I guess.
Oh, so it would...
According to this, so yeah, no, it was after that.
Okay.
Yeah, World War I is what ended them. And they broke up due to the outcome of that in the few years after.
Anyway, but yeah, and I have to say, and I'm not taking sides, I'm not going to get political.
Yeah, it's about 1299.
1299? Okay, so that would have been before the Ottoman.
Yeah.
Okay, so they weren't the Ottoman yet. But still, that region, it was still the tribes of Islam, things like that. I'm sorry, could you just imagine that? You're some Middle Eastern soldier dude standing around, waiting to guarding your sultan or whatever. And you're just like, oh, those dang Christians are going to be here any minute, aren't they? Yeah, we can take them. That's no big deal. And then a tennis ball just falls at your feet. And you just hear this trampling sound as these very excited dog people come running towards you. You know what I mean? It's like, that just sounds like it's going to be a bad time. Now, to be fair, I don't know if it was in 900. Because they were Crusaders. Now, I know that there were the Great Crusades, but there were also the Lesser or the Minor Crusades. So when were the Crusades? Those were like 1500?
1100 was the second one. Hold on.
Because, I know they're actually really spread apart, and there were actually dozens of them, but we only remember the 7 Great Crusades.
Yeah, the Crusades. 8 major crusades. There was a ton of actual little ones, I know.
Yeah, the lesser crusades or the minor crusades.
Between 1096 and 1291.
Okay, so then this could have been Ottoman. It could have been. No,
1290. Well,
because the stories always say they're crusaders.
yeah.
So then they would have to be between 1000 and 12,
Now, according to Wikipedia,
which could be
whatever.
Yeah.
From what brief that I was reading, 1299 is when the Ottoman Empire started as a full-fledged empire under that name.
Yeah.
This right here is saying, this is from the History Channel.
Again, questionable.
Yeah, very questionable. Occurred between 1096 and 1291.
Okay, so this would have been...
The History Channel talked about anything other than those two things. And the people on chat know what I'm talking about if they know the History Channel.
Yeah, but, so, okay, if these were Crusaders, then they would have been pre-Ottoman. They would have been still when they were, like, the little Islamic tribes and stuff. I don't know what the term is for pre-Ottoman. Turk? Are they just called the Turks?
Turk is...
Or was Turk what came out after the Ottoman?
I know it's after Ottoman.
I know that there's
if that's
Turkey,
pre-Ottoman.
which is the Turks, but didn't they call themselves the Turks before Ottoman?
See, this is all Sean stuff. I don't know. Yeah,
Jesus! It's not a crusade, it's called peacekeeping. Your dad is saying they would have just been referred to as Muslim.
Muslims, yeah.
But anyway, either way, the point is, could you imagine that? You're like, yeah, here come those Christians again. Hey, Mohammed? Yeah, Mohammed? Do you hear barking? There's like 3 people who are going to get that joke. And 2 of them are in this room. But, actually, he's saying no. This is not his time frame. His time frame would have been before this.
Yeah, what is Don's and Sean's time frame?
What is your time frame, Sean? Real quick, actually, what would you say is your time frame? What is your anthropology? What do you specialize in anthropology? Actually, I don't think I've ever actually asked him. He just studies in general.
See, I like United States and Roman history. That's what I know most about.
I know
Christian history.
I know stuff spread across the board.
You know a lot of like
3000 BC. Okay, so you're way long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, this is way outside your time frame, but still. Anyway, back to my point. These creatures, supposedly the Sinnohs, were like very devout and very loyal. And here's the funny thing, because again, when you talk about stuff from Christianity, everyone always treats it like it's a bubble. You know what I mean? Like, well, if the Christians mention it, then no one else does. Or if it's in the Bible, then it's not mentioned anywhere else. No, that's not true. There are documentations from the Muslim tribes saying that, no, they talked to them too. They talked to Sinnohs too. Supposedly, they tried to bribe the Sinnohs to betray the Christians, actually. And it didn't go so well. With supposedly the Sinnohs literally stating, nah, we like them. We like the Christian folk. $1,500 concept. Oh.
Okay. Nice.
Okay.
I wish I knew more about that.
Oh, Sean could totally take a pack of Sinnohs. I highly doubt that, Sean. So, let me tell you a little bit about these guys. First of all, they were around the Mediterranean Sinnohs. Stood around 7 feet tall. And supposedly they had endless energy. They were incredible runners. They favored artillery combat, like throwing javelins or bow and arrows or slings and bolas and things like that. Supposedly they didn't like fighting with swords and axes and things because the smell of blood would actually kind of... How do I say this? It was distracting to them, if you get what I mean. And I know you do. There are stories.
It's a bone.
Oh my... Son of a... Why do we even have this? Oh, I remember this was a gift, actually. Anyway.
I found it back there.
Anyway, though. There are even stories claiming that just... What, Dad? Did you hear about the dyslexic atheist that had insomnia? I know I'm going to regret this because I'm sure it's a trap.
The dyslexic?
No, Dad, I haven't heard about the dyslexic atheist who had insomnia.
Apostasy is the closest thing to insomnia spelled backwards.
Sean admits he probably couldn't take them anymore. Yeah. Very strong, very fast, very athletic, and they would literally just go berserk. There are stories that a lot of the Christians actually were afraid of the Sinos because just mentioning violence, just saying, hey, there might be a fight, hey, there might be a battle, and there's no pretty way to say it, so I'm just going to say it outright, it would make them orgasm. Just the prospect that they could get into a fight. He laid in bed awake all night wondering if there really is a dog. Oof! Ow. The bishop hit me with a wiener.
What did the cowboy say when the werewolf ate his dog? Well, doggone.
I hate you all so much. We were having a good time. We were having a good damn time. Suddenly we're talking about dog people jizzing themselves over the idea of getting into a fight. I'm getting hit with wieners in the face, and my dad is telling dad jokes. God.
Why did the cowboy get a wiener dog?
I hate you.
Because somebody told him to get a long little doggy. Alright, I'm done. I'll shut up.
They sound seriously like they sound like my kind of people. Well, supposedly the females were identical to the males, so they were right there beside the males, so apparently they did it too. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, no, supposedly they were actually kind of scary to the good Christian folk. And so they would be they would live in human society, but they kind of would usually keep to themselves, kind of thing. Wonderful chat. Everyone's just laugh emojis are just streaming up and hearts and stuff.
Oh, I got a ton of werewolf jokes.
No, you don't. But anyway, another well-known Sino, and we mentioned him a couple times already, is, of course, Saint Christopher, who there's a whole big conspiracy thing with him. Because he, in the older art, is depicted as a Sino. And then suddenly, abruptly, around the 1600s, and we'll get to it, but around the 1600s, they suddenly start depicting him as a human. And there are some people who argue that it's, the typical religious sabotage, trying to erase true Christian history and things like that. Other people say that they felt the idea of there being a 12-foot tall dog man for a saint was too ridiculous and people wouldn't believe it. Personally, I think he's kind of cool. So here's the thing about him. He is the patron saint of travel. Now, again, most Sinos cannot speak. There are some stories where they can, but most the stories say they can't. Saint Christopher was one of the ones who couldn't. But he was a giant even among his own kind, with most stories saying he was around 12 feet tall. But he knew he didn't have the brains to be a leader himself, so he wanted to serve someone. He wanted to serve someone else. And he swore, in his doggy language, his barking, he swore that he would only serve the mightiest, the most powerful. Some people refer to him as the traveler. But he swore he would serve only the mightiest person. And for a time, he served the king of the Canaanites, supposedly. But one day, he saw his king drawing the sign of the cross when he heard the mention of Satan. And so, Christopher, who at the time was known as Racchus, I think is how you pronounce the name, Racchus or Ruckus. I think it's Racchus. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Racchus. It's not important. It's not too important, but he wasn't known as Christopher yet. He was known as, I think it's pronounced Racchus. So Racchus was like, well, okay, what's this thing when you hear the word Satan? And he was explained that the king of the Canaanites feared Satan. So if you are fearful of Satan, you draw a cross, because the cross wards off the devil. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remain in. I know you're supposed to do it like the whole length of your body, but I'm sitting here. So, anyway, so Racchus got the idea. Well, shoot, Satan must be stronger than the king of the Canaanites. So I'm going to go serve Satan. And so for several years he did. He actually served Satan, and even supposedly Satan and him walked side by side. He was a powerful champion of evil. Until one day, when he was walking on the side of the road with his master, and they saw 3 wooden crosses on the side of the road. And Satan would not continue walking. He wouldn't go near the 3 crosses. And so Racchus was like, what's the deal, master? What's wrong? And Satan told him, I'm not going anywhere near that. I'm not going anywhere near the symbol of the cross. It's the symbol of my defeat. It's the symbol of my failure. And so Racchus is like, wait, you're supposed to be the mightiest of the mighty, but there's a symbol of your downfall? Then you're not the mightiest of the mighty. What is this cross? So he turns his back on Satan and goes to find this cross. What is this cross? What is the meaning of this cross? He keeps hearing about this damn thing. And eventually he finds a monk who's actually, I guess he's whittling or something. He's making crosses. So Racchus is like, you there, what is this thing? Tell me. I want to point out, this is a 12-foot mute person with a head of a dog. I can only imagine this is a very uncomfortable, frightening time for the monk. But he's so interested in this cross. What is this cross? What is this? And so the monk is like, Are you looking for Jesus? Because the cross is the symbol of Jesus Christ. And so Racchus is like, finally, answers. He's like, yes. I want this Jesus thing. Give me Jesus. Who is Jesus? And the monk explains to him, well, the problem with Jesus is that I can't make him appear, even though he is my brother. You have to find him. But there's good news. It's not hard. He'll find his way to you, one way or the other. You just have to sincerely seek him. And Racchus didn't like that answer. He actually got very mad. He's like, no, this cross is apparently a symbol so powerful, even Satan is afraid of it. I want Jesus. I want him here. I want him now. Give me Jesus. And so the monk explains to him, well, my brother once said that were you to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, nurse the sick, and home the homeless, you would be doing those things for him. So if you want to find Jesus, if you want Jesus to find you, you need to help people. Racchus is still annoyed as all heck no. I mean, keep in mind, this whole story spans his life. He's been doing this for years, trying to find this mightiest of the mighty to serve. And once again, he's told to go look somewhere else. Well, he goes and he finds a river. And there's this old man trying to cross. The problem is the river, it's not super deep, but it has a really powerful undertow. So you can't just like wade across it. You'll get swept under. And Rackus is like, wait. If I help people, I'll find Jesus. This old man needs my help. This old man is Jesus! And so he runs over to the old man. Keep in mind again, 12-foot tall, barking dog person. I can only imagine how horrifying. And on top of that, 12-foot tall, mute, barking dog man who previously was a servant of Satan. This is not going well. This old man is terrified. And he's like, please don't hurt me. I'm just trying to cross the river. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. And, of course, again, Rackus can't talk, so he can't explain, I just want to help you, old man. The old man is freaking out, scared to death. Rackus gets a little mad, which is not good when you're 12 foot tall. He picks up the old man and just carries him across the river. And the old man's like, oh, I thought you were going to kill me. Thank you, scary dog person. And so the old man leaves, but he tells everybody, hey, at this river crossing, there's this 12-foot tall dog person who will ferry you across the water. And so that's what he did. He sat there by this river helping people cross for years. Like, actually for years. And they came to know him. They knew him, and they knew he wasn't a threat. He wasn't going to hurt anybody. I imagine he could probably do a lot of damage to someone if he wanted to. But no, it was literally just people would walk up to him and, you know, they would bring him food and water and they would talk to him and stuff like that. And he would ferry people across back or forth. Until one day, a little boy shows up. No parents, no nothing, just a little boy by himself. And the little boy says that he needs to cross the river. Yeah, a nice 12-foot tall dog person who formerly was a servant to the Lord of Evil.
But he's nice now.
Yeah, I mean, redemption arc. There you go. We got a redemption arc going on here.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, though. So this little boy says that he needs to cross the river. So Rackus picks him up and sets him on his shoulders and starts walking into the water. Only, as he does, the river seems deeper. And this child is apparently extremely heavy, to the point that Rackus even comments it feels like the weight of the world is on his back. And, which is weird because he's not supposed to be able to talk, but he says that. But inconsistency, I guess, I don't know. But the child on his shoulders asks Rackus, are you going to cast me aside because I'm such a burden? And Rackus is like, what? Why on earth would I throw... No, why would I throw a child into a river? No, I'm not going to throw you off. No. And the boy comments, I'm just a little boy, though. I thought you wanted to serve the strongest and the mightiest. And Rackus stops halfway in the river. By the way, normally he could just walk across this damn thing. For some reason, now it's like up to his neck. He is literally looking up. For some reason, it's deeper than ever before, and he has all this weight on his shoulders. And he remembers. That's why he was there in the first place. He wanted to find this Jesus guy, but he had been doing this for so many years. Befriending the people who came to the river, he actually forgot in the first place why he was doing it. It just, that's what he did. He was a nice guy who helped people across the river. It wasn't for anything. And Rackus is just like, I guess I just carry people across the river. That's what I do. I'm not doing it for anything. And he keeps going across the river, and now he's so deep that it actually goes over his head. But he doesn't stop. Even completely submerged under the water, holding this child up, he is still trying to cross this river. And the boy puts his hand on top of Rachis' head and starts to pray. If you can't figure it out, he was baptizing him. And Rachis gets to the other side of the river, and when he goes to take the child off his shoulders, it's not a child. It's a grown man. Not a very special-looking person at all. Rather homely, actually. Kind of messy hair. And Rachis is like, what's going on here? What happened? I don't understand. And he realizes, you're him. You're Jesus. And Jesus explained to him, I'm sorry, but I had to be sure. I had to know if you served power or you served good. So I had to test you one last time. And he renamed Rachis Christopher, which means to bear Christ. And so now we have Saint Christopher, who was like, well, now what? I don't understand. I mean, am I supposed to stay here at the river? What do I need to do? Which, by the way, again, inconsistency, I know. But again, randomly Rachis can talk here. But then again, I guess, I don't know. I mean, maybe Jesus understands dog. You know, given everything else he does, like in the Bible and stuff, understanding dog kind of seems like, well, duh.
It's kind of easy.
Right? What was that called? The gift of gab?
Yeah.
To speak and be understood by everyone? Yeah, that's the gift of gab. Yeah, it sounds like something Jesus would do. Anyway, though, and Jesus explains to him that he can't tell Christopher what to do. He can't tell Christopher because Christopher already knows. Jesus explains to him, you followed the light of God all this time. You didn't realize it, but you were. And so you just need to ask yourself, what are you doing? What are you doing next? And Christopher feels torn, because on the one hand, he's been doing this for years. He's been taking care of the river, right? But he also feels like, well, I've met Jesus. This quest, this thing I'm doing is done. I need to move on. But he can't just leave the people to, fend for them. They can't cross the river without their 12-foot dog man, right? And he gets upset again. And he actually wades back into the river. And don't look at me like that. I'm not making this up. He stomps in the river, like he's stomping on the undercurrent, because that's the dangerous thing. That's why they can't cross. And he actually makes the river tame by stomping on the undertow, so it's safe to cross. So he doesn't have to stay there and protect people. He goes, and he follows this. I guess you could say he follows his heart. He knows he needs to go to other places, and he ends up in Rome. Not the best place to be for a Christian. Keep in mind, these stories are supposed to be around 400 AD, 400 years after the death of Christ. So, not a good time. Not a good time to go to Rome. There were the persecutors who were torturing and capturing Christians and so on. And St. Christopher was like, nope, this is where I feel like I need to go. And he himself was captured. By the way, very brave persecutors. How much do you have to dislike a religion that you go and attack a 12-foot tall... And this is a dude who's been working out his whole life, picking up people and going swimming across her. He had to be jacked as hell. Well, no, jacked as heaven? I guess that's the term you would use for a saint, jacked as heaven. Anyway.
He'd be cramped in our place, even though
probably.
Like
I don't...
12-foot.
Well, we do have a vaulted ceiling at the house, so... Oh, God!
Right.
Hi, Gluttony. You want to sit over here with...
Is our ceiling 15 or 20 foot tall? I mean, it's tall.
I don't know. I know we pay extra because it's vaulted. Anyway, though. I'm not sure, but anyway. I don't know if he could stand full. I don't know if we have 12 foot.
Oh, he could stand in that.
Very, like, maybe in the middle.
Right here?
I don't know about that.
8 foot. I don't know.
Anyway, though. So he goes to Rome to challenge the persecutors. And they capture him and they put him in a cell. And they torture him and so on. And the other Christians in the cells, they're questioning God. Like, why is this happening to us? How is God letting this happen? And, and some of them even question, is Christ there? Is Christ coming back? And Christopher literally was just talking to him. He's like, no, it's okay. But he can't talk. He can't speak again. So they won't listen to him. And to be fair, they'd probably be freaked out by him. Just a barking 12-foot tall man who's apparently angry now. And he's trying so desperately to communicate with these Christians. He's trying so hard to explain to them, it's okay. No, Jesus is a thing. I literally was just talking to him a few days ago when I met him at a river. Okay? It's okay. You have to have faith. But they wouldn't listen to him. He couldn't talk to them. And so he prayed. He was like, God, help me here. Jesus, help me out here this one time. Please let me talk to them. And the cell he was in, everyone inside had been sentenced to death. And so they were being led out in the street. And Christopher looks and he sees in the crowd, Jesus is in the crowd. And so Christopher again is like pulling on his chain. He's trying to get people to look. He's like, no, look, he's right there. He's right freaking there. Okay? But they won't listen to him. They won't pay attention. They think he's a freak or something. And he gets so frustrated. He opens his mouth. And according to the story, the fury of the Lord comes out. Literally he speaks the voice of God. And it makes all the persecutors filled with terror that they just hit the dirt. And so, St. Christopher breaks the chain that has them all bound together and and it's like, Christians, leave, get out of here, go away. To be fair, none of this is in the Bible. This is all stories that are told outside of the Bible. But either way. Oh, good night, Dad. I actually can see that. Good night, Dad. Anyway, though. And so the Christians, they finally listen to him, and so they run away. But the persecutors they're going to get back up in a minute. They're not, he didn't kill them or anything. He scared them because the voice of God came out of his mouth. And so he's like, well, I got an idea. I can help travelers one more time. And so he braces his big, hulking, 12-foot tall body in an archway. So the prosecutors can't go after the Christians. The Christians are out running into the wilderness outside the city. And Christopher uses his body to bar the way out. And so the prosecutors are just like, you know what? Screw it. Screw the fancy execution. Take him down here. And they martyred him. They struck him. The funny thing is, they didn't have the courage to run up and stab him or something. They actually threw stuff at him. Some stories say they stoned him. They threw rocks. Other stories say they threw spears and arrows and slings at him. I'm not quite sure, but the point is, he died stopping the persecutors from pursuing the Christians. At least in one version that I read. I've heard a few different versions, like I said. Some say he was stoned. Some say that they stabbed him with throwing weapons and things like that. Other stories say that there's a few different things. But basically, I don't know. One way or another, the point is that he martyred himself. But he is remembered as the patron saint of travel. There you go. There's a conversion campaign. Tell the furries about the 12-foot tall dog man who once upon a time was a servant of Satan. And also, Jesus almost drowned him. I know. He wasn't trying to drown him. It was a baptism base. It was basically a complicated baptism. But still, there's a recruitment process, right? See, you know what's funny is actually, a couple days ago, I want to say, Sean in the family chat that I'm in, he was commenting how there was this prayer group that had come to Tulane, and they were like getting heckled and stuff like that, and they basically got shooed away because people were making fun of them. And I commented, "Do you know what the real problem with Christians is?" And I'll tell you, I'm not scared. I'll say it right now. The problem is there's not enough Christians going around entering holy covenants with rabid dog people to purge heresy from the world. Y'all are soft. Here's the funny thing, though. My sister, seeing this comment, she just slid in like freaking making a home run with, the good old days. You know, I can respect a philosopher. I can respect a warrior. Most of all, I'll respect a warrior philosopher. But no, I'm just saying, like, you Christians, you take a lot. You do. You guys are very patient. Love you, buddy.
Hug.
But yeah. Now here's the interesting thing, because there's kind of a conspiracy theory that we have to get into. Because I know, I promised you werewolves, right? I can imagine there's people like, wait, why aren't you talking about werewolves? Cynocephali aren't werewolves, they're dog people. There's a conspiracy. So put your tinfoil hats on, because we have to go into weird territory. Yes. Put the buff dog guy on the front of the Bible. Well, he's not in the Bible. He's from I guess, would it be medieval? No, it wouldn't be medieval. It wouldn't. Just Christian lore, I guess, would be the term. Early church. I don't know.
400 AD. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, early church.
Yeah. I mean,
I
again,
early to mid church.
Yeah. But to be fair, no, Saint Christopher is not in the Bible.
Yeah, the Bible only goes up to Acts, which is about
only a couple of years after the crucifixion, right? And then, well, of course, then there's Revelations, but Revelations is kind of its own thing.
Yeah, it doesn't even go into it doesn't even go up to 50 AD or when the Jewish revolt happened.
Yeah,
it ends about a decade after Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, with Revelations.
Well, Revelations is its own thing. I'm saying, yeah, Saint Christopher was around 400 AD, so he's not in the Bible. But I do agree with you, Sean. I bet you there'd be a lot of people more interested in picking the book up. What was it? There was something, I remember in the 90s, there was the Action Bible. It was like a comic book of but they were comic books about King David and his crusade and against the Canaanites who had invaded and stuff like that. And what was it? Samson, the one who had the strength of 12 men or something like that. But they were graphic comic books. They were more like superhero comic books,
Well,
and bloody. I remember they were bloody.
What did Beavis and Butthead say? Beavis was like, you should check out this book. I mean, there's this naked chick and this guy puts his teeth on his schlong.
What?
They don't even.
Was that the movie?
I think it was Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Yeah,
it's a Beavis and Butthead joke.
I remember that. They were they read the Bible and they thought it was actually really cool because it was violent and shit. To be fair, there is some pretty violent stuff in the Bible.
I mean, they don't even mention David killing and cutting off 100 foreskins.
I thought it was 200.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, wasn't it 200? He defeated 200 men in battle and he cut their foreskins off as proof because King Saul questioned him.
Yeah, to bring Saul for Saul's daughter or something.
It was it was the dowry to marry Saul's daughter. Yeah, he defeated 200 men in battle and he took their foreskins. I realized just now, as I recall it says he defeated them. He didn't necessarily kill them. You can defeat someone without killing them. And then he took their foreskin as proof. I'm going to be honest with you, I probably would have just been just kill me.
You're right, yeah, it was 200.
Hey, I got one. Well, King David's my guy. I like King David. King David's probably my favorite character in the Bible.
Yeah, it was for Saul's daughter, 200 horsemen,
Yeah.
from the Philistines.
Yeah, because Saul doubted him. Which, I'm going to be honest with you, doesn't sound like the smartest thing. King David was like probably one of the most badass dudes.
Also, this was probably when he was about like 17, 18.
Yeah, because he was still a boy when he beat Goliath.
Yeah, he was.
He was a kid. I think. Well,
they
youth.
expect him to be about 13, 14, 15 in there when he fought Goliath, because he was just a shepherd boy.
I get to be I'm Dr. Bible now because I got one right. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Better call King Saul. Come on.
That didn't work out so well.
I'm still Dr. Bible.
Yeah.
But you did get one.
I did get one on you. I'm going to take this. But anyway, back to my point. There is a conspiracy about what happened to the Sinnohs. Because here's the thing. Have you guys noticed the trend? Every time we've been talking about them, they're the good guys. They're a bit rough around the edges. They're a bit eccentric. Let's call them eccentric. But they're good. They're good guys. They fight alongside humanity, or Christians specifically, or at the very least, they live peacefully. Going back to Titus, he claimed that the Sinnohs were merchants who did trade with the king of India. But strangely, around 1600, everything changes. Like, instantaneously, they go from being these stand-up creatures who are allies of humanity, again, at least of, like, Western civilization, of, like, Christians and stuff. Apparently they weren't fond of Muslims. But then in the 1600s, they're suddenly cannibals and they're vicious monsters, and that's where we finally see them. We're finally getting to them. Werewolves. The theory is that the Sinnohs integrated into human society, specifically Western European, to Christian society, and started breeding with people. Now, supposedly, if you take a human and a Sinnoh and breed them together, you get a human baby. And so, what actually happened, supposedly, is that across the 1500s, the Sinnohs just kind of bred themselves out. Which is weird, because there's still mention of dog people after, but the reason that they're not, like, everywhere is because they actually basically just melded with humanity. Now, the theory goes on, I should say, that this interbreeding led to some humans, for lack of a better term, having canine genetics. Now, keep in mind that the Sinnohs, despite their reasonability, despite their intelligence and everything, they tend to have very violent impulses. Remember, they don't like using melee weapons because the smell of blood makes them go berserk, for example. Now, thank you. Sean actually brought up a good point, which is the same thing that happened to Neanderthal. Neanderthals bred themselves out of existence, intermingling with humans, and resulting in, us. But anyway, now we're going to get into werewolves. In the 1600s, you had these people who would suddenly behave like animals. They would become vicious, aggressive, violent, and they had a fondness for human flesh. Where have we heard that before, children? The Sinnohs. The theory is that actually werewolves are descendants of human Sinnoh interbreeding. And by the way, here's an interesting thing for you. I was looking. I looked and looked and looked and looked. And all the information about the werewolves when they start up in the 1600s, they don't transform like we see werewolves today transform, like in the Hollywood movies and stuff like that. Yeah, the first iteration of the legend of the werewolf was just a human who acted like a wolf and would attack people. A common explanation was that they were cursed. They had entered into a pact with Satan, or they had angered God or something like that, which is why silver kills a werewolf. Don't look at me, I'm not that crazy. I'm only saying the truth. You need silver to kill a werewolf. Why? Because silver is the metal that God cursed when Judas betrayed Jesus. That's also why vampires don't have a reflection. Why?
Got me a silver spoon from New York.
Are you descended from a Sinnoh?
No, it didn't burn me when he gave it to me.
Okay, then you're fine.
I have an actual silver spoon.
You weren't born with it.
No.
Yeah. Anyway.
You gagged me with the spoon?
Go away. Anyway. Now, the conspiracy theory basically goes that the people of the time were kind of ashamed of interbreeding. And so they tried to hide it. They claimed that the Sinnoh hybrids were cursed by the devil. They were evil creatures of darkness and madness and stuff like that. And our favorite group of people to dump on kind of spearheaded the whole thing. The French. Yeah. So, by the way, if you're curious, why don't we have dog people today? Well, thank your local Frenchmen. Because it's their bloody fault. The French What the freak was that? I talk trash about the French and something gets thrown at me.
That's white.
It couldn't have been the French. They'd be running away. Anyway, the French people, more than any other culture, hated these werewolves. In fact, they were the ones who coined the phrase lycanthropy, or being a lycanthrope, which is another way... Sean, there he is. I will never forgive the French. Yeah, we had badass dog people to be our friends, and then the French came along. You ever seen that meme, and then along came Zeus? It's like somebody saying something, and then it's the song from Disney's Hercules, and then along came Zeus, and like a lightning bolt will strike them and just miss them or something. Or something bad happens in general, and it implies it's because along came Zeus. I want someone to make a meme, and then along came the French. They literally ruin everything they touch. Some people argue France caused both the world wars. They were
World
big.
War I, yes.
Well, yeah, but some people argue that they were big for World War II because they kept going to Germany for what's the term I'm looking for? Reparations.
Okay, yes, Germany...
Because Germany lost World War I,
okay,
which the French started.
I'm just going to say Germany got an unfair treatment in World War I, and World War II was because Germany was pissed off at everybody else.
Yeah, but there's people who joke that France was really antagonistic towards Germany after World War I, and that's part of why the whole thing happened. So again,
and
you
World
can
War
say...
I, Germany got pulled into it because they happened to be allies with Austria, who had...
Yeah. So and then there was also Vietnam. We got dragged into
French.
We got dragged into Vietnam because of France. Uh-oh. Open eyes. Oh, open eyes. The French did something shitty? I knew it! Oh, God, I was not expecting that. That hurt. Oh, you ever laugh so suddenly and so hard that it hurts?
Now, to all our French viewers,
we're
we
joking.
Love you, but
everyone who wants to be here is welcome here. But we're gonna give you hell. That I think it's a law. I think it's written somewhere. It might be in Leviticus. Thou shalt give the French shit.
Hey, you give the states hell. I mean, you give the French hell.
You give everyone shit. You give everybody hell. If you have a joke that you feel you can't tell around certain people, you shouldn't tell that joke to anyone. Okay? I was making fun of, Muslims a little bit ago. Muslims are perfectly welcome here. I make fun of furries, I make fun of gay people, I make fun of Republicans, I make fun of Democrats. No. That is how we talk here. Okay? So for the record, if I do offend somebody, 1, I'm sorry. 2, I'm going to do it again, and 3, I was lying about the first thing. Okay? Anyway, though, the French, more than anybody else, launched this huge campaign against werewolves and lycanthropy. In fact, actually, the term lunacy, or being a lunatic, comes from that as well. Because, again, they thought that the moon's phases had something to do with it. Fun side note, we actually today do know that, yes, the moon's gravitational effects on the planet Earth, some people are susceptible to it. I'm just going to say the awkward, uncomfortable thing here. A lot of autistic people will have very odd mood swings, and they do fluctuate with the lunar phases. The moon's gravitational field, keep in mind, if it's strong enough to affect the ocean, a human's not going to stand much of a chance against it. But the whole term lunacy, lunatic, lycanthropy, and lycanthrope all come from this kind of like a crusade that the French people launched against werewolves and, if you believe the conspiracy theory, yes, we're going to conspiracy stuff here, a campaign against the Sinnohs. Now, the sad thing is again, the Sinnohs were allies to Western civilization. So this is a double betrayal because this whole thing supposedly is because the French people were ashamed to admit that they had bred with the Sinnohs and made half-breed babies. Which, by the way, if you think that sounds petty, the French. But no, that's a supposed conspiracy theory, is that the Sinnohs bred with humans and basically kind of just bred themselves out, and then the French were so ashamed of this that they demonized the half-Sinnohs as werewolves who had entered into pacts with the devil, and they were creatures of evil, and they were insane, and they had to be put down, and things like that. Now, the rule of storytelling is that you always tell the story better than you heard it. So, we start with, Bob is a half-Sinnoh. He went berserk and ate a baby. Okay, that's number 1. Second telling of the story. Bob is a werewolf and he killed a child. Third telling. Bob sold his soul to the devil and became a werewolf and murdered his own daughter. And it just keeps getting worse with every iteration. Every story outdoes the previous version. Which is why we go from basically half-human babies into the modern Hollywood werewolf, who transforms into a full-on Sinnoh by himself. But again, there's the oldest stories from the 1600s. They don't transform. They just act like a wolf. Which I think is funny they use that terminology. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, to be fair, I've never been in physical contact with a wolf. But every wolf I've ever seen, they're not rabid animals.
Massive.
They're big, they're very strong, and they are very good hunters. I'll give you that. But this idea that wolves are just random walking buzzsaws looking for a baby to shred up or something, that's not true. That's the same. It's the same with sharks and bats. They're not these monsters. Or bears. Yeah, bears are too, especially the black bears, are too damn wimpy to frickin' be a threat to you. You could fart and scare a black bear away.
So why do the French not like the full moon, it seems? Because I like the.
I have a theory with that one too.
Because when I walk home at night, the full moon lights.
Oh, it's
everything
nice
up.
walking out at night.
And when there's no moon, it's dark.
Oh yeah. So that comes from Christian versus pagan, because the moon cycles were very important to a lot of the European pagan religions, most of which we kind of spread the blanket term of being druids or druidic over. You leave the sky puppies alone. Bats are wonderful. We love bats here. I am an advocate of batworld.org. By the way, always a good time to make a donation there. By the way,
the French government owes us all a dog man friend.
I'm cool with that.
Right.
Funny side note, they call them dog men, but again, there's no way to tell them apart unless you actually like lift up their loincloth. So when they say dog men, they do actually mean cyno or how does it pronounce it? Cynocephaly, which is a dog person. They can be male or female. And it's impossible to tell them apart unless you actually look at their genitalia. Yeah. No. See, we love bats here. This is Poppy. Poppy's a Bat Eye sponsored from batworld.org. The bishop also had one named Cornelius.
Since we're doing this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and this is Free the Bears?
Free Bears, yeah.
Yeah, Free the Bears
Australia.
is another wonderful animal organization. Yeah, you know what? Hey, in fact, you know what, chat? Yeah, we've got batworld.org, we've got Free the Bears.
More.
In memory of our fallen and lost Sino brothers and sisters, make a donation to an animal charity. Yeah, you have Cornelius, right? Yeah, Cornelius, who is actually named after someone in the Bible. Cornelius the Centurion, I think is what he's called. Yeah.
Since we're going into like animal charities, Bat World.
Yeah. Bat World, Free the Bears.
Yeah. Free the Bears, Bat World. There's a lot of different animal charities you can go sponsor different animals.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. Make a donation in memory of our lost canine brothers and sisters who we didn't get a chance to be friends with because of the freaking French.
Totally random, not sponsored, but
absolutely not sponsored.
Free the Bears, they're based out of Australia. Bat World, they're based out of
Texas.
There are a lot of other animal charities. Any animal you like, there's a charity that helps protect them and
I guarantee
save them and yeah.
Another one that I like a lot is you want to take this back?
Yeah.
Is the Bomb Rats. This is they're an African charity who train bats rats, little guys, to find landmines and actually dig them up. Because the rats are not heavy enough to actually trigger the landmine. And I forget what the charity itself is actually named, but they're referred to as bomb-sniffing rats. And yeah, chat, I'm kind of curious, you guys, do you guys have any animal charities that you support and you champion? That's right, our resident psychopathic mother, you know what? Jeff, our dear sadomasochistic Russian friend, he runs a charity called the Ugly Cat House. Fair warning, if you look it up, he does post a lot of his own original artwork there, and it's not for the faint of heart. But I believe he operates through Bootsy. But yeah. Make a donation this month. Make a donation in memory of our canine kin, our dear friends the Sinos. Because thanks to the French, we don't get to have, big, awesome 12-foot tall dog friend people. For Bat World and for wolves in general and for the bears and for the rats and for the Sinos. I mean, you want to talk about getting a raw deal. You know what I mean? Because again, all the stories say that we betrayed them. It was the French who started hunting werewolves and stuff like that and killing them, killing the half-breeds and so on. You know. Although I have heard some people also say that creatures like the Beast of Bray Road and my brain just went blank. The Michigan Dogman are surviving descendants of the Sinnohs. And then, of course, there's other various, cryptids that are supposedly their descendants and so on. But yeah, the Beast of Bray Road, Michigan Dogman. Wasn't there? I want to say there was a story about a village in Texas that was all werewolves. Was that Texas that had the werewolf town? I feel like your dad would know, Mr. Bishop. Wasn't there like wasn't there a legend of a town of werewolves? I know in Louisiana they have loup-garou, which is a fancy way of saying werewolf. Tara has one. She champions the Gentle Giants rescue, which is a horse rescue.
What is Jeff's?
It's like the Ugly Kitten House.
I'm not finding it. It's all Russian. It might be blocked.
It might be, actually. It might, yeah, you want to say?
Sadly, yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. I know he has to operate through Bootsy. Unfortunately, we can't.
Gentle Giants.
Yeah, the Gentle Giants horse rescue. Tara's talking about that one.
See, I can't find Jeff, but it's out of Russia,
so most likely it might be embargoed. Yeah.
Bullshit.
Which we do not support. There it is, Gentle Giants horse rescue.
There it is.
This is Tara's charity that she champions. But yeah. And the conspiracy theories and legends about the Sinnohs go even. I'm promising you, I'm not making this up. It could even go farther than you think. But unfortunately, I couldn't really talk about that. Sounds like a place in Texas. So I'm gonna give you guys a little teaser. There is another conspiracy about the Sinnoh people, but I'm not going to talk about it tonight because in order to talk about it, we'd have to discuss aliens. So there you go. There's a teaser for the next episode, for a future episode.
Next week?
Not next week. Next week we're doing something else.
Ah.
Next week we have something else special because again we're talking about Halloween motifs until November.
Aliens could be Halloween.
Chat, back me up on this. Are aliens and UFOs really Halloween? Are those really are aliens and UFOs really Halloween themed? I'm kind of not feeling that.
My dad seems like a place in Texas.
Sounds like because I was talking about I remember hearing stories about a whole town that were all werewolves, and I want to say it was in Texas. I'm not sure now, and I didn't write it down. But anyway, back to my point. The modern werewolf is a snowball effect of these stories that were spread in. Jesus is saying no, aliens aren't Halloween.
I feel they're not Halloween, but they are.
They're definitely in our realm. They're the weird, the unknown, and the mysterious.
Creepy and scary, yeah.
And don't worry, we will, but it's just that we have to stick. Sean says that they are monstrous. They're in the theme of monsters.
They are, and Halloween is about scary, spooky, weird, supernatural. So I feel they are in that sense.
Okay, hold on. Okay, know what? No, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this like our ancient Mediterranean Roman canine brethren. We're gonna do it with democracy. What say you, chat? Should we talk about aliens in the Halloween season? Do you want us to talk about aliens? Because next week I'll go ahead and drop this because I'm super excited for this. I'm really excited for next week. And we're actually past 9 o'clock, so actually it's perfect good time to say this.
Now, we did start late.
We did start late, yes. But even still. So. Hey, Gluttony, I'm just going to put my hand here. I am so fat. Anyway. Should we talk about aliens during our Halloween celebration until November? Because next week, we're talking about my personal favorite Halloween motif theme. Next week, we're going to be talking about mad science and mad scientists. Always had a very special place in my heart. I love the theme. I love the kind of character archetype and so on. But what do you think? What do you think, guys?
I think Donson would love aliens.
I'm a little biased, so I'll cast no. No, Halloween was more about spirits and such.
See, okay, if I can, to speak, when...
You've been doing it the rest of the show.
When somebody asks you, personally, the viewer, what do you think of Halloween? Everybody thinks of something different.
Yeah.
Like, some people think of, like trick-or-treating. Some people think of, oh, it's scary and dark. Me personally, me and Kristoff had this discussion. When I thought of Halloween, I think of jack-o'-lanterns. But other people will think of decorations. Other people will think of trick-or-treating. Other people will think of movies. Other people will think of candy. It really
damn.
all depends.
So we're in a tie. Because Tara says no. Sean says no. Both the bishops say yes.
Now, I will say, when I think of Halloween, I don't think of aliens first off, but they are in that realm of scary, creepy, which, when I think of Halloween, is scary, creepy, fun, and aliens are fun.
Well, we need somebody to come in here and save us, because we're in a tie. Oh!
Chirpy says talk about cryptids.
Stay here. You know what? Here. You can be behind the sign.
Well, we have, what, 8 weeks till Halloween at least?
Something like that. I think there's going to be about 8 shows, yeah? I mean, we're going to need... Well... Yeah, what the hell?
Aliens might be more of a December thing when it's cold and lonely.
My mom says yes! So we have 3-2. Mom would be pro-alien, yeah. So we have 3 yes and 2 no's. Yes to aliens. Well, I mean, I'm honestly surprised. Like, Sean seems to really like the idea of talking about the Sinnohs. And I just hinted that the Sinnohs are tied to aliens, and he doesn't want alien. Witches rule Halloween. Yeah, I'm sure witches... We're gonna talk about witches, don't worry. We couldn't talk about Halloween. We couldn't celebrate Halloween without some witches.
Sorry, Don.
Yeah, well, it's 3-2. And it is looking about that time to head on and hit the trail. So, yeah. Wait, where's... Okay, yeah, you're still over there. You can't jump at me anymore. Anyway. I don't think Minotaurs and ancient civilizations are really Halloween-y, though. Maybe in December.
See, I don't... Yeah.
Or November. I don't know if Minotaurs don't come to mind with Halloween.
But neither do aliens.
They kind of do.
On it.
Well, see, here's the thing.
I feel my vote.
Oh, Jesus wants to come over for the witches episode. Well, you know how he loves them bad witches. Yeah, okay, fine. Let's wrap this one up tonight. Don't forget to go and support an animal charity in memory of our fallen canine brethren, the Sinnohs. I'm just going to call them the Sinnohs. They didn't know how to name stuff back in the day, man. I'm telling you. Seriously. And join us next week when we talk about mad scientists and mad science. My mother is warning me she'll have curses ready by next week, so I need to be careful talking about witches, I guess. But join us next week then when we'll talk about mad science and mad scientists. And we continue to celebrate Halloween all through the Halloween season, September and October. But in the meantime, boys and girls, children of all ages, and any dog descendants that might be in the chat, my name is Kristoff N. These are my dogs, Famine and Gluttony. You guys aren't descended from Sinnohs, are you? Unknown backstory? Anyway, we got the bishop over in the corner, Choopy's in timeout. And, of course, as always, keep checking the shadows.